Alrighty, so this is the Team Dudes presentation for the final submission for the COS 420 software engineering class with Professor Troy Schotter. Our problem statement for the project which we worked on all semester was that UMaine sports are a hub of the community and a staple of UMaine, but the associated website, which provides scores, game, and player statistics and game times, do not match in quality the level of importance which these sports hold for the university. The problem arises because the current solutions for finding this information are difficult to navigate, requiring you to visit multiple pages for each individual sport. It can also feel overwhelming to the average user as the information is densely packed, shorthanded ad nauseum, and lacks convenience of layout. College sports of this caliber and popularity are held back by the inaccessibility and inefficiency of their associated websites. Which basically all goes to say, we wanted to create a better website than the one which currently exists so that people in our community could find easy access to sports information in a convenient and proper fashion. We had me as the project manager or director, Xander Dufour, and I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves. Michael?
I'm the designer, and I'm Michael.
Ness. Braden?
I'm Braden. I'm one of the developers.
Cooper?
I'm Cooper. I'm also one of the developers.
Patrick?
I'm Patrick. I'm also a developer.
And Matthew?
And I'm Matt, and I'm also one of the developers.
Alrighty. And then, Michael, is it time to go on to our UI mockup?
Yeah, let's go over that.
Okay. So this is the original kind of mock-up which Michael created for our website and how we wanted it to look when it was still in its infancy. And as you can see, it was kind of a drag and drop widget where you would be able to customize your homepage in such a way where you could only have the information that you wanted, and then would be able to kind of personalize it to your own interests. Michael, do you want to explain that some more?
Yeah, so to go off that, it's the initial inspiration for it was to kind of have something where you could display, more than just scores. You could get player stats, schedule, news, things like that. So that's why at the top there's different size widgets, and at the bottom you can have uniform size widgets. And the top bar would have different navigation menus. But the idea behind this design was to have something centralized so that you go to it and you can kind of see everything there at once. So,
yeah, that's very insightful. This is our UML and domain model that Cooper worked on mainly. So I'll hand it off to him to describe how this works.
Yeah, thank you so much. So for the domain model, I used Miro, if you scroll down a little bit, to make the diagram. And so included in this document, I have the basically how each our class bounces off each other. So at the top, I have examples for how news and team are coerced together, and then how the user goes to the dashboard. And then what Xander's zooming in right now is each class and then the list of things that are required for that class. So if you look at the top one, which is user, the user has the user ID, the username, get user ID, and set user string. And it also has the login and logout feature, which are used with the user category. So then this document just goes through all of those things and how they're connected. So we see how a user can go into preferences and dashboard, and then the dashboard goes into widgets, and then the widgets will go into teams. And we can see how the teams will gather from API service, and then they'll go into games and news. And then if we go all the way down to the bottom, these are just the object lists for each class. If you could please scroll all the way down.
Oh, all the way down?
Xander? Yep. And then, just to that. So these are all of the objects that are listed in each class in that document we looked at above is just in a more neat order, so it's easier to view them. And then that is our domain model.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so next we're going to open up our website and look at the significant features which we're going to be going over today that we worked on over the past 5 deliverables in order to get it into a state which we felt kind of represents our original goal and ideology for getting it to a point where it satisfies the problem statement. Okay, so the first feature which we would like to highlight, courtesy of our glorious king, Cooper Step and Q, is the light and dark mode. This wasn't really represented in our UI mockup. And if we go to the product backlog, hold on one second, to look at the user stories that it represents.
And so here, what I'd worked on was the light and dark mode. So in our sprint backlog, we have here, as a student, I want a website which allows me to customize its home screen to better suit my needs. And if we go over to the SRS document, we can see, and one of the functional requirements that we added is the website shall allow the user to customize aesthetic preferences in their dashboard. So if you can go over to the website, so we can take a look at it in full effect. So we have right here the black bar bulletin. It's already in the light mode. So if you click on the dark mode, then you can see that it switches over to the dark mode where it changes both the background and the text occurring to which mode you're suited in. And if you go to light mode, and then you can click on the dashboard, that will bring you over to where we have the rest of everything. So you can still change it wherever you go. So even if you go to the sign up screen, you can still have it go from light to dark. And yeah, that's basically what I've worked on.
Very cool. And then we did forget one thing in that we were supposed to show the UML diagram, which was in the detailed technical design document, which was worked on by Michael. This is our class diagram, I believe, and then this is the master one, which is the one that we've been following. So Michael, would you like to maybe potentially just describe a little bit of more of how the website kind of interacts with everything, especially considering this is the more updated version of this?
Yeah, so this diagram, it just illustrates the connection between everything within the app, how our widgets connect to our data within Firebase, and then how those widgets have specific categories for the sports. So described in this illustration is hockey and baseball. And yeah, it just outlines the design pattern we used, a mix of strategy and facade, which is what the data is using. And yeah, that's pretty much what that diagram shows.
Yeah, very cool. And so also one more thing, I know we're kind of hopping all over the place, but I think it would be beneficial to describe the code and how the light and dark mode work, I believe. So if I just head over to, what's that in again, Cooper? Where's that?
The documents I added were in the app TSX and CSS files.
Yeah. Okay. So
basically, it should just be that block that you're looking at right now. Just scroll up a bit. So basically just what I added. So could you first go to the app CSS?
Mm-hmm.
So I added the off button features were already there. So I had to make a new feature for both the dark theme and light theme, which is what you're looking at right now, and the theme text.
Yeah, and
so if you go back to the app TSX, you can see that I basically just added it. So there's 2 buttons, one for light, one for dark, that both use the theme buttons.
Yeah, very nice. And then
And that basically, when you click on that, it does you can switch between light and dark.
yeah, very nice. And then so let's continue describing the significant features which we have for our code base. So we've got the next two coming up, which are kind of in tandem, both done by Matthew, our glorious king. We've got add widget, and the whole widget system, which is part of a tremendous amount of our user stories, to be quite honest with you. But Matthew, do you want to take it away?
Yep. So the whole widget system, it starts. We have the widget page itself, so that you can add the widget and then select hockey. There's a widget. Each widget feeds information from their own thing and goes onto the widget page. And so you can see these all, they don't allow it to overlap, and it's on a grid system. And they're all generally the same size, so there's no overlapping or anything. Along with that, you can see that baseball, it's live updating. So currently UMaine is losing to Binghamton.
Hopefully that changes by the end of this.
Yeah. But yep, you can move it, you can remove widgets, all that.
Yeah, very interesting. And it works on this grid-based system, which is done using some very complex math that Matthew invented himself. Very, very cool. And yeah, and I think in terms of next deliverables, we'd probably add more options for widgets and make the graphics a little bit nicer. But yeah, can you just go over some of the user stories in the UI mockup and looking at the UI mockup, even I can tell you that it's pretty close to what we had in here, with the little red X's at the top and being able to move things around.
Yeah, we had a lot of user stories about working on the widget system and making the screen better suit your needs. Like as a student, I want a website which allows me to customize its home screen to better suit my needs. A lot of it's just ease of use and allowing to see the box stores easily.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, so some of the functional requirements that these widgets have, we have it live updating the scores for right now baseball, and we can see these move in a grid along the front page, and it allows you to remove it, and yeah, you can view, update, delete all the widgets that you want and store it as you'd like.
Very nice. Would you like to describe the code and tests for them as well?
Yes. So if we start, for example, baseball TSX, that it fetches the data from the website that UMaine uses and stores it as a JSON, which is then fed into the interfaces and used to display on it. And that's the same for any other ones like football, the other ones. They do generally the same thing. And then that feeds into the widget TSX, which then that handles how it moves and interacts with the other widgets and how it removes and all that. And then each one of those individual widgets is fed into the widget page, which just handles the IDs and what the positions of them and all that. So and the widget tests, it just checks if they if the functionality works, if they move, make sure they're not over each other, all of that.
Yeah. Very cool. And then you also have some tests for hockey and baseball, I see.
Those tests check that the data is populated and that it all loads correctly, because the data has to be fetched live from the links.
Oh, very nice. Okay, and then we have one more feature that we're going to go over and talk about, which is one that Michael worked on. So we'll show off the sign up and login feature. Although I suppose to best showcase that, I'll put in like a new email. So let's just make up a random one. Michael, would you like to start off?
Yeah, so like for the sign up and sign in features, I used Firebase for that, and that is what stores all the data. So when somebody puts in information like this, it will store his email as an identifier, and it will hide his password, of course. And I used in signup.tsx. I created a form that lets users register with their email and password, and using Firebase's create user with email and password, they can create their account. And when the sign up is successful, the user is then directed to the main widget page. So they'll log in here and it will go to this main widget page here. There's also some error handling and useful feedback. So if somebody enters the wrong password or the wrong username, it will let you know that the Firebase authentication failed. In the signin.tsx, it's the form that allows, just like Xander just did, to log in with the information they just made when they were signing up. By doing that, I had to edit the app.tsx file to set up routing using the React router. And I added the routes for the sign up and the sign in, the widget pages, and then placed the sign up and the login buttons in the top corner of the site. And then in the JSON file, I had to include the correct version of Firebase, including a separate file that initializes and creates Firebase, and all of those authentication things. So as you can see, we have sign up.
Yeah, could you just go over the test real quick?
Yeah, so Patrick, you wrote those tests, right? I believe Patrick wrote those.
Yeah, sorry, I wrote the test for those. Basically, I just set it up to have the Firebase get a mock request for a sign up, and it basically just, if the information all matches the constraints, it'll basically send through a mock return confirming that the user is added. And if anything's messed up, like the passwords don't match, it makes sure to log an error for the user.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
So for me, what I did is I worked on the domain model, as we've seen previously. And for another deliverable, what I'd most likely add would be if we added more things to the widgets, like different types of sources to get information from, I would add those to the domain model. And also on the SRS, if you go down right to the table of contents back up there, I worked on sections 1 and 6 of this, and I would most likely add more appendixes if I were to work on this for another deliverable.
Yeah, and then Matthew and Michael, you also worked on the SRS, right?
Yeah, so I did mostly sections 2 and 3. And what I would do if there's another deliverable was obviously kind of just add more features. There would be more user classes and characteristics, things like that. So
Yeah.
And I did 4 and 5, and that would be similar to Michael, just adding more of the functional, non-functional requirements and all that for different features that we had.
And then Michael, you worked on the detailed technical design document, right?
yes, I did.
Right. And we went over that a little bit earlier, but do you want to expand on it a little bit about what you would probably update this with if we continued to work on it?
Basically, the main thing that would be expanded would just be displaying more specific widgets under there. We'd probably have more just team stats, things like that. Right now, we're only displaying things like live scores, but we could go into more detail about things like the division or the players or things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we have so far.
Yeah, and then me and Mike together worked on the use case model and description. He did the original work, and then I did some revisions to it. Yeah, I think for future deliverables, we would probably want to like change the use case descriptions to better accurately describe what the program does. And then Matthew, you did the sprint backlog for the entire project, right?
Yep, we had the sprint backlog, kept up with all the user stories and tasks, and for the future, it would just be keeping up with it, keep like doing what I've been doing for each sprint.
And then you and Braden worked on the software architecture document.
Yeah, I worked on the design diagram and that, and in the future, just keeping it up to date with all the features we have and how they interact with the models and everything.
And Braden?
And I worked on the description, the design description, and similar. I would just in future sprints just keep it updated with how the website is developing. I also did the product backlog. Again, that's just keeping up to date with changes and additions that we do to the project.
Yeah. No new user stories and such like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I worked on the GitHub, the tasks each week, the wiki, the agendas, in the team meetings and the communication agreement. Stuff like that. I also worked on the continuous integration with the GitHub Actions and the rule set, getting that working. Matthew helped out with that as well. And then I worked on the story points for Deliverable 0. I did like a pretty decent chunk of them, and then I think other people contributed quite a few as well. And I think we all together worked on the project description. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you everyone for a great semester, and good work.